Sergeant Thomas Wright noticed the breakfast tray first. Small detail, easy to miss. But after 7 years of royal protection duty, small details mattered. The tray sat outside Princess Charlotte's private study room at Kensington Palace. Untouched, still covered. The toast would be cold by now. He glanced at his watch. 11:15 on a Thursday morning. School term. Charlotte should have been at Lambrook. Instead, her schedule showed a quiet day at home. Nothing unusual about that. Royal children got sick, had private appointments. Normal stuff. Except the tray bothered him. The palace kitchen sent breakfast to Charlotte's wing at 7:30 every morning she stayed home. This tray had been sitting here at least 3 hours. The orange juice had separated. The butter had started to sweat. Wright kept walking his patrol route. Not his business what the young princess ate or didn't eat. His job was securing the perimeter, monitoring access points, rotating through the residential wings on schedule. But something nagged at him. He couldn't place it yet. Before we continue, make sure you hit subscribe. Drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from. Now, back to what happened next. 20 minutes later, Wright completed his circuit and returned to the same hallway. The tray hadn't moved. He checked on the time again. Nearly noon. 4.5 hours since kitchen staff delivered it. He radioed down to the main security office. Right to base. Quick question about Princess Charlotte's schedule today. The radio crackled. Go ahead, Wright. She's marked home all day. Any visitors scheduled? Tutors? Anyone with her? A pause. Computer keys clicking in the background. Negative. Just family and household staff. Queen Camilla arrived this morning around 8. She's still in the residence. Wright thanked them and signed off. Camilla visiting wasn't unusual. She spent time with her step-grandchildren regularly. Public appearances, private, teas, photo opportunities the press loved. But that breakfast tray kept pulling his attention. He'd walked past Charlotte's wing yesterday afternoon during his shift. Heard her laughing. Bright sound, unmistakable. She'd been playing with Prince Louis in the corridor, their voices carrying through the open door. Normal, happy. Today, silence. Complete silence. Wright approached Charlotte's study door. Solid oak, closed. He listened. Nothing. No voices, no movement, no television sounds or music. Just quiet. His training said, keep moving. Don't interfere with private family time. Royal children deserved privacy, but his instincts said something felt wrong. He noticed fresh scratches near the door handle, thin lines, recent. The brass hadn't tarnished in the grooves yet. Someone had fumbled with the lock, or forced it. Wright's hand moved to his radio. He stopped himself. And say what exactly? A breakfast tray went uneaten, and there are scratches on a door. He'd sound paranoid, overzealous, the kind of guard who created problems where none existed. He continued his patrol. By 2 o'clock that afternoon, 3 trays sat in the hallway. Breakfast, lunch, and what looked like a mid-morning snack. All untouched, all still covered. This time Wright didn't hesitate. He knocked on the study door. Gentle, professional. Princess Charlotte, Royal Protection doing a routine check. No response. He knocked again, louder. Your Royal Highness, everything all right in there? Silence. Wright tried the handle. Locked from the outside. His pulse quickened. Rooms in the family wing didn't lock from the outside. Privacy locks, yes. Interior bolts that residents controlled. But external locks? Never. He pulled his radio again. Right to base. I need to confirm something. Charlotte's study door. Has it always had an external lock mechanism? More clicking. Checking the palace schematics now. Stand by. Wright waited. 30 seconds felt like 30 minutes. Negative. Right. That door shows an interior privacy lock only. No external mechanism on file. Copy that. Wright examined the lock more carefully. New hardware. The screws still had that machine-bright finish. This lock had been installed recently. Very recently. What he discovered next would change everything. But the full truth was still hours away. Right now, Wright only knew one thing. A 9-year-old princess was locked inside a room, and someone had gone to considerable effort to keep her there. He made a decision. Breaking protocol, possibly career-ending, but he'd spent 4 years in active military service before joining royal protection. He'd learned to trust his gut. Right now, his gut screamed that something was badly wrong. Wright headed toward the household staff quarters. He needed answers, and he knew exactly who to ask. Margaret Chen had worked in Kensington Palace for 16 years, started as a junior maid, worked her way to senior household staff. She knew every corner of this building, every routine, every deviation from normal. Wright found her in the staff break room, reviewing inventory lists. "Mrs. Chen, do you have a minute?" She looked up, recognized the expression on his face. "What's wrong?" "Princess Charlotte. When did you last see her?" Chen frowned, closed her clipboard. "Tuesday afternoon. She was heading to her music lesson." "Why?" "Not yesterday. Not this morning." "No. I was off yesterday. Came back this morning at 6. Haven't seen her." Wright leaned closer, kept his voice low. "Her study door has a new external lock. 3 meal trays sitting in the hallway, all untouched, no sounds from inside. You know anything about renovations to that room?" Chen's face changed. The professional mask slipped for just a second. Worry flickered across her features. "There's no renovation scheduled. And Sergeant Wright, that door shouldn't have an external lock. Ever. It's a child's study." "That's what I thought." Chen stood up. "Where is she?" "Supposed to be today. Home from school. Camilla's with her." Something passed over Chen's face. She didn't say anything. Didn't have to. Wright had seen that expression before. People who knew something, but weren't sure they should share it. "Mrs. Chen, if you know something—" "I don't know anything." She said it too quickly. "But I've noticed. Things have been different since Queen Camilla started spending more private time with the children, especially Charlotte." "Different how?" Chen hesitated. 20 years of discretion warring with concern. "Charlotte's been quieter. Last month, I saw her crying in the library. When I asked what was wrong, she just said she missed her mother. Princess Kate was only in Windsor, just 30 miles away. Charlotte could have called her any time." Wright's jaw tightened. "What else?" "The kitchen staff mentioned Charlotte's been eating less, picking at her food. They thought maybe she was coming down with something, but it's been weeks." "And no one said anything?" "To who?" Chen spread her hands. "The Queen Consort is her step-grandmother. She has every right to spend time with her. What were we supposed to report? That Charlotte seemed sad? Children get sad sometimes." Wright understood. Palace staff walked a careful line. Observe, serve, stay invisible. Speaking up about private family matters could end a career, but staying silent might be worse. "I need to check on her," Wright said. "Officially. You'll need authorization. Breaking into a royal's private room without cause. 3 untouched meals is cause. A lock that shouldn't exist is cause." Chen studied him for a long moment. Then she reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a master keyring. "I was going to do inventory in that wing anyway. If you happen to accompany me for security purposes, that would be protocol." Wright took the keys. "Thank you." "Sergeant Wright." Chen's voice stopped him at the door. "If something's really wrong, if Charlotte needs help, don't wait for authorization. Just act." He nodded and left. The walk back to Charlotte's wing felt longer than it should. Wright's mind raced through possibilities. Maybe Charlotte was sick and sleeping. Maybe she'd asked not to be disturbed. Maybe Camilla had good reasons for everything. But the locked door, the external hardware, the scratches, the 3 cold meals. None of it made sense. Wright reached the study. The hallway was empty. He glanced both ways. Clear. He selected the master key Chen had given him. His hand shook slightly. 7 years of perfect service. Commendations. Trust. One wrong move here could destroy all of it. But if he was right, a child was in trouble. If he was wrong, he'd be fired by dinner. Wright inserted the key. It turned smoothly. Too smoothly. Someone had been using this lock frequently. The mechanism was well oiled. He pushed the door open, 6 inches. Princess Charlotte, it's Sergeant Wright from Royal Protection. I'm coming in to check on you. No response. Wright opened the door fully and stepped inside. The study was dark, heavy curtains drawn, no lights on. It took his eyes a moment to adjust. Then he saw her. Charlotte sat in the corner, farthest from the door, knees pulled to her chest, still wearing her school uniform from Tuesday. The same uniform Chen had seen her in 2 days ago, wrinkled now, a stain on the sleeve. She looked up when Wright entered, tried to smile, failed. "Hello, Sergeant Wright." Her voice came out as barely a whisper, hoarse, like she'd been crying for hours or hadn't had water in days. Wright's professional training took over, assessed the situation, check for immediate danger, maintain calm. But inside, rage was building. "Your Royal Highness, are you all right?" Charlotte's lower lip trembled. She bit it, trying to hold composure, trying to be brave like they taught her. "I'm fine, just tired." She wasn't fine. Wright could see that from across the room. But he moved slowly, didn't want to frighten her, didn't want to overwhelm her. "When did you last eat something?" Charlotte glanced toward the door. Fear flashed across her face. "She said I had to stay here until I learned, until I understood." "Understood what?" "How to behave properly, how to show respect." Charlotte's hands twisted together in her lap. "I must have done something wrong, but I don't remember what." Wright's fists clenched. He forced them to relax. "How long have you been in here, Charlotte?" She used his first name, forgot the title. That told Wright everything. She was beyond protocol, beyond training, just a scared child now. "Since Tuesday, after dinner, she brought me here, said we needed to talk privately. Then she—" Charlotte stopped, swallowed hard. "Then she left and locked the door." Tuesday evening. This was Thursday afternoon. Wright did the math. Roughly 43 hours, nearly 2 full days. "Have you had anything to eat? Any water?" Charlotte pointed to a small bathroom attached to the study. "I drank from the sink, but the trays outside," she said, "I wasn't allowed to touch them, that I had to earn them back." Earn them back. Like food was a privilege, like nourishment was something a 9-year-old had to deserve. Wright's radio crackled. "All units. Queen Camilla preparing to depart Kensington Palace. ETA to vehicle 5 minutes." She was leaving. Probably assumed Charlotte would stay quiet. Stay obedient. Stay locked in this dark room until Camilla decided the punishment was sufficient. Wright made his second protocol-breaking decision of the day. "Charlotte, I'm going to take you out of here. We're going to get you food and water, and then we're going to talk to your father." Charlotte's eyes widened. "But she said—" "I don't care what she said. This isn't right. You know that, don't you?" Charlotte nodded slowly. "I thought maybe I was being dramatic." She said I was too sensitive, that royal children need to be tougher. "You're not being dramatic." Wright crouched down to Charlotte's level. "What happened here is wrong, and we're going to fix it." But he didn't know yet just how much fixing this would require, or that by the end of the week, over 30 staff members would be dismissed, or that this moment, right now, would reshape how the royal family protected its children forever. He only knew a child needed help, and he was going to make sure she got it. Wright helped Charlotte to her feet. She swayed slightly. Dehydration, exhaustion. He steadied her with one hand. "Can you walk?" I think so. She took 2 steps and stumbled. Wright caught her. She weighed almost nothing. Had she lost weight in just 2 days? Or had the lack of food and water just weakened her that much? Let's take it slow, Wright said. They made it to the hallway. Charlotte squinted against the light. Even the dim corridor seemed bright after hours in that dark room. Wright's radio crackled again. Queen Camilla now entering. Vehicle, departing palace grounds. Good. She was gone. That bought them time. Wright guided Charlotte toward the staff kitchen, closer than the main residence, more private. He needed to get fluids in her immediately. Food second, then figure out next steps. Mrs. Chen appeared at the end of the hallway, saw Charlotte. Her hand went to her mouth. Oh my God. She needs water, something light to eat. Can you help? Chen didn't ask questions. Just nodded and hurried ahead to prepare the staff kitchen. They got Charlotte seated in a quiet corner. Chen brought water first. Room temperature. Not cold. Cold water on an empty stomach could cause problems. Charlotte drank carefully. Small sips. Her hands shook holding the glass. Not too fast, Chen said gently. Just a little at a time. Wright watched Charlotte drink. Watched the way she kept glancing at the door. The way she flinched when footsteps passed in the hallway outside. The way she held herself like she expected punishment at any moment. He'd seen this before. Different context, different country. During his deployment overseas, children in conflict zones. That same watchful fear, that same learned helplessness. He'd never expected to see it in a British palace. Chen brought her plain toast. Charlotte ate half a piece. Slowly, like her stomach had forgotten what to do with food. Better? Wright asked. Charlotte nodded. Thank you. I'm sorry to cause trouble. You didn't cause anything. This isn't your fault. But I must have done something to upset her. I just can't remember what. Wright exchanged a look with Chen. This was worse than he'd thought. Charlotte had internalized the punishment, accepted blame for something that wasn't her fault, something she didn't even do. Charlotte, I need you to tell me exactly what happened, starting Tuesday evening. Charlotte set down her toast. Her voice came out small but steady. We had dinner in the family dining room. George and Louis were there. Camilla too. She seemed normal, happy even. Then after dinner, she asked if I wanted to see something special in the study. A surprise, she said. And you went with her? Yes. She's my grandmother. I trust her. Charlotte paused. Trusted her. What happened in the study? She showed me some old photographs. Pictures of her with my grandfather, with my father. She was talking about family history. Then her phone rang. She stepped out to take the call. When she came back, everything changed. Changed how? Charlotte's hands twisted together again. Her face looked different, angry, but controlled, you know? Like she was trying not to show it, but couldn't quite hide it. She said she'd just spoken with my mother. That Mum had said some things about her, criticisms about how she was handling royal duties. Wright leaned forward. Did she say what specifically? No, just that my mother was making her life difficult, undermining her, turning people against her. Charlotte looked up at Wright. But my Mum doesn't do things like that. She's always kind, even when she disagrees with people. I believe you. What happened next? Camilla said I needed to understand something. That in royal families, loyalty mattered most. That children who didn't support all family members equally were causing problems. She said I'd been spending too much time with my mother and not enough respecting her position. Chen made a soft sound of anger. Quickly stifled, Charlotte continued. I told her I loved everyone in the family. I didn't mean to show favoritism. She said that was exactly the problem. I was too much like my mother, too soft, too emotional. That I needed time to think about where my loyalties should lie. And then she locked you in? She said I could come out when I'd learned my lesson, when I understood that she deserved respect as queen consort, that my mother's opinions didn't matter anymore. Charlotte's voice dropped to barely a whisper. She said the meals outside the door were a reminder that comfort and care were privileges, not rights, that I had to earn them by showing proper deference. Wright felt sick. This wasn't discipline. This wasn't even cruelty. This was calculated psychological manipulation, using a child to strike at Kate, using Charlotte as a pawn in whatever power struggle existed between Camilla and the Princess of Wales. What he discovered next changed everything. But first, if you're enjoying this story, drop a like and let us know in the comments. Would you have done the same in Wright's position? Now, here's what the guard found when he started digging deeper. Did she come back at all? Wright asked. Check on you. Once. Wednesday morning, she opened the door, asked if I'd thought about what she said. I told her I was sorry. I said I'd try harder to respect her. She said that wasn't enough, that I needed to really understand. Then she left again. Did you try calling for help? Calling out? The walls are thick. No one walks past that hallway very often. And Charlotte stopped, ashamed. I was scared. What if I made her more angry? What if she told my father I was being difficult? I thought maybe she was right. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Wright wanted to put his fist through a wall. Instead, he kept his voice calm, professional. Charlotte, listen to me. Nothing you did justified this. Nothing. You're 9 years old. You're allowed to love your mother. You're allowed to have feelings. What she did was wrong. Completely wrong. But she's the queen consort. She has authority. Not over this. Not over keeping a child locked in a dark room without food. No one has that authority. Chen had tears in her eyes. She wiped them quickly. Does anyone else know? Have you told anyone what happened? Charlotte shook her head. I just got out. Sergeant Wright found me. Wright stood. Decision made. I'm calling Prince William, right now. He's in Scotland, Chen said. Meeting with the First Minister. Won't be back until tomorrow. Then I'm calling Princess Kate. She's with him. They went together. Damn. Wright tried to think. Charlotte needed her parents, but they were 400 miles away. It would take hours to get them back. What about Princess Anne? Chen suggested. She's at Gatcombe Park. That's only 2 hours. Anne, the king's sister, known for her no-nonsense approach, her fierce protection of family. If anyone would take this seriously and act quickly, it was Anne. Can you get me her private line? Wright asked. Chen hesitated. That requires authorization I don't have. I'll take responsibility. We need someone from the immediate family here. Someone who can make decisions. Wait. Charlotte spoke up. I have her number. She gave it to me last year. Said if I ever needed anything, I could call her directly. Smart woman, Wright thought. Anne had probably sensed something. Maybe not this specifically, but enough to give Charlotte a lifeline. Charlotte pulled out her phone. It had been in her pocket the entire time. Dead battery. Of course. 2 days without charging. We can use mine, Wright said. Charlotte recited the number from memory. Wright dialed. 2 rings. Then Anne's crisp voice. Yes. Your Royal Highness. This is Sergeant Thomas Wright, Royal Protection at Kensington Palace. I'm here with Princess Charlotte. We have a situation that requires your immediate attention. A pause. Then, is Charlotte injured? No, ma'am. But she's been... Wright glanced at Charlotte. How to say this? She's been confined without food or water for approximately 43 hours. Silence on the other end. Not shocked silence, controlled silence. The silence of someone processing information and preparing to act. Confined by whom? Queen Camilla, ma'am. Another pause, longer this time. Is Camilla still at the palace? No, ma'am. She departed 20 minutes ago. Good. Keep Charlotte with you. Do not leave her alone. Do not let anyone else take her until I arrive. I'll be there in 90 minutes. Understood, Your Royal Highness. And Sergeant Wright, you did the right thing calling me. Whatever happens, remember that. She hung up. Wright lowered the phone. Anne's last words stuck with him. Whatever happens. Like she knew this was about to explode into something massive. She's coming, Wright told Charlotte. Charlotte nodded. Some of the fear in her eyes had lessened. Anne had that effect. She was safe, solid, someone you could count on. What do we do until she gets here? Chen asked. Document everything, Wright said. I need photos of that study, the locked door, the external hardware, the untouched meal trays, everything. Chen nodded and left to get a camera. Wright sat back down, across from Charlotte. I need to ask you something else. Has this happened before? Maybe not this extreme, but has Camilla done anything else that made you uncomfortable? Charlotte thought about it. Little things, comments, about my weight, suggestions about how I should dress. Once she told me my mother's family wasn't as sophisticated as my father's, that I should be careful not to act too common. Common. Kate's family had been subjected to that kind of snobbery for years. Apparently, Camilla was passing it down to the next generation. Did you tell anyone? I told Mum once. She got very quiet. Then she said she'd handle it, but nothing changed. Because Kate probably went to Charles, and Charles probably made excuses. Camilla was adjusting. She didn't mean it that way. You're being oversensitive. The same dismissals people in power always gave when confronted with uncomfortable truths. Chen returned with a camera. I'll go document the study. You stay with Charlotte. She left. Wright and Charlotte sat in silence for a moment. Then Charlotte spoke quietly. What's going to happen now? Your Aunt Anne will come. Your parents will be contacted. This will be investigated properly. Will I get in? Trouble? Absolutely not. Will Camilla? Wright met her eyes. I don't know, but she should. What she did to you was abuse. Plain and simple. Charlotte absorbed that word. Abuse. She'd probably never applied it to her own situation before. Never thought. What happened to her counted. I don't want to cause problems for my father, she said. He loves Camilla. He chose her. Your father loves you more, and when he finds out what happened, he's going to make sure you're protected. Wright hoped that was true. Hoped Charles would prioritize his granddaughter over his wife. But he'd seen family loyalty twist people's judgment before, seen people defend the indefensible because admitting the truth meant admitting they'd been wrong. Chen came back 15 minutes later. It's done. 23 photographs. The external lock, the scratches, the trays, the darkness, all documented. Good. Send those to my secure email. We need backup copies. Wright's radio crackled. All units. B. Advised. Prince William and Princess Kate have been notified of a family emergency. They're departing Scotland immediately. ETA to Kensington Palace, approximately 5 hours. Someone had contacted them. Probably Anne. She worked fast. Charlotte perked up. Mum's coming? Yes, she'll be here tonight. Relief washed over Charlotte's face. Then worry. Is she angry with me? She's not angry with you. She's probably furious at what happened, but not at you. Never at you. The next hour passed slowly. Wright stayed with Charlotte, kept her hydrated, got small amounts of food into her system, watched her regain some strength, but he also watched her flinch at every sound, watched her monitor the doorway constantly, watched her retreat into herself whenever voices passed in the hallway. 2 days of psychological torture had done damage. Physical recovery would be quick. Emotional recovery would take longer. At 4:30 that afternoon, Anne arrived. She came through the staff entrance. No fanfare, no announcement. Just strode into the kitchen like she owned it. Which, technically, she did. Anne took one look at Charlotte and her jaw tightened. but her voice stayed gentle. "Hello, darling. I hear you've had a rather terrible time." Charlotte stood up. "Aunt Anne, I'm sorry to bother you." "Stop." Anne held up one hand. "You're not a bother. You're never a bother. Come here." Charlotte crossed the room. Anne pulled her into a hug. Not delicate, not cautious, just solid and warm and safe. Wright saw Charlotte's shoulders shake. She was crying now, finally allowing herself to break down. Anne held her for a long moment, then stepped back, hands on Charlotte's shoulders. "Right, tell me everything. Don't leave anything out." Charlotte repeated the story. Anne listened without interrupting. Her expression never changed, but Wright saw her hands tighten slightly each time Charlotte mentioned something particularly cruel. When Charlotte finished, Anne turned to Wright. "You found her?" "Yes, ma'am." "Why?" "Untouched breakfast tray. 3 meal deliveries ignored. External lock installed on a child's door. Training said something was wrong. Instinct said check. So I did." Anne studied him. "You broke protocol?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Protocol doesn't account for child welfare emergencies." She turned back to Charlotte. "Do you need medical attention? Any pain? Dizziness? Just tired, and my stomach hurts a little?" "We'll have the royal physician check you anyway. Better safe than sorry." Anne pulled out her phone, made 3 calls in rapid succession. First to the physician, second to someone Wright couldn't identify, third to palace security. "I want the footage from every camera covering Charlotte's wing, Tuesday evening through today. All of it, delivered to my office within the hour." She hung up and looked at Wright again. "Where's Camilla now?" "Clarence House, I believe. That's where she headed when she left here." "Convenient. She won't be coming back to Kensington tonight, or possibly ever." That last statement hung in the air. Ever. "Your Royal Highness," Wright said carefully. "What happens next?" "Next. Next we make sure this never happens again." Anne's voice was steel. "My brother is going to have some very difficult decisions to make, but that's his problem. Right now, Charlotte's safety is the only thing that matters." She was approaching the moment that shocked everyone who witnessed it. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. We share stories like this daily. Here's what happened when Princess Anne took complete control of the situation. Anne knelt down to Charlotte's level one more time. "You're going to stay in your mother's rooms tonight. Mrs. Chen will stay with you until your parents arrive. You're not to be left alone, and you're certainly never going to be locked in a room again. Understood?" Charlotte nodded. "I need you to do something for me," Anne continued. "When your father arrives, when William and Kate get here, you're going to tell them exactly what you told me, even the parts that are hard, even the parts that might upset them. Can you do that?" "I think so." "Good girl." Anne stood. "Now go with Mrs. Chen. Get cleaned up. Fresh clothes. The physician will be here soon." Chen guided Charlotte out of the kitchen. That left Wright alone with Anne. "Sergeant Wright." "Ma'am?" "You're going to be questioned about why you entered that room without authorization. Your superiors are going to want explanations. They may threaten disciplinary action. Do not back down. Do not apologize. You did exactly what needed to be done." "I understand, ma'am." "Do you? Because this situation is about to become complicated very quickly. Camilla is the Queen Consort. She has powerful allies, people who will try to minimize what happened, call it a misunderstanding, a disciplinary measure taken too far. They'll try to protect the monarchy's image." Wright felt cold. "Are you saying she might face no consequences?" "I'm saying she'll face consequences if I have anything to do with it. But I'm also realistic. The palace protects itself first. Always has." Anna's expression hardened. "Which is why we're going to make sure there's no room for doubt, no room for spin. The evidence needs to be undeniable." "The photographs are a start, but we need more. I need you to write a detailed report. Everything you observed, times, conditions, Charlotte's physical state when you found her. Her exact words: clinical, factual, something that can't be dismissed. I'll start immediately. Good. Anne headed for the door, then stopped. One more thing. You'll probably be reassigned after this, moved to a different post, maybe dismissed entirely. They'll call it protocol, say you violated chain of command. Are you prepared for that? Wright thought about Charlotte's face when he'd found her. The fear, the resignation, the acceptance that she somehow deserved punishment. Yes, ma'am, I'm prepared. Anne smiled. Small, but genuine. My father once told me that real courage isn't following orders. It's knowing when orders are wrong and acting anyway. You have that courage, Sergeant. Don't lose it. She left. Wright stood alone in the kitchen. His phone buzzed. Text message from Captain Wells, his commanding officer. Report to my office immediately. Explain unauthorized entry into royal quarters. It was starting. The pushback. The institutional resistance to acknowledging what happened. But Wright had Annen's backing. He had the truth. He had evidence. And in about 4 hours, he'd have William and Kate. That would have to be enough. Wright walked to Captain Wells's office, knowing his career might end in the next 15 minutes. 7 years of service, spotless record, 4 commendations, all potentially erased because he'd chosen a child's safety over protocol. Wells sat behind his desk, reviewing something on his computer screen. He didn't look up when Wright entered. Sergeant Wright, explain to me why you entered Princess Charlotte's private study without authorization. Sir, I observed 3 untouched meal trays over a 6-hour period. An external lock installed on a door that shouldn't have one. Fresh damage to the door frame. No response when I announced my presence. I assessed the situation as a potential welfare emergency. And you didn't think to request authorization first? I did request information about the door lock from base. They confirmed it shouldn't exist. At that point, time became a factor. Wells finally looked up. Time became a factor, or you decided to play hero? Wright kept his expression neutral. I found a 9-year-old child who'd been locked in a dark room for 43 hours without food. I'd make the same decision again, sir. Would you? Wells leaned back. Even knowing it violated protocol? Even knowing you could be dismissed? Yes, sir. Wells studied him for a long moment. Then he sighed. I received a call from Princess Anne 20 minutes ago. She made it very clear that you acted appropriately given the circumstances. She also made it very clear that any disciplinary action against you would be viewed as the palace prioritizing procedure over child welfare. Wright said nothing, just waited. You're being reassigned, Wells continued. Effective immediately. You'll no longer work direct family protection. There it was. The punishment disguised as protocol. I understand, sir. You'll be assigned to the Royal Collection Security Detail, monitoring artifacts, paintings, historical documents. Much less exciting than guarding royals. I see. Princess Anne specifically requested you for the position, said you showed the kind of judgment they need, protecting items of extreme value. Wells almost smiled. Apparently, she considers you too valuable to waste on routine patrol duties. Wright blinked. That wasn't a demotion. The Royal Collection position was prestigious, required higher clearance, more responsibility. She also said, Wells continued, that you're to receive a formal commendation for actions above and beyond expected duty. It'll be presented privately, of course. Can't exactly have a public ceremony explaining what you did without explaining why you had to do it. I don't need recognition, sir. Maybe not, but you're getting it anyway. Dismissed. Wright left the office in a daze. He'd expected punishment. Instead, he'd been promoted. Anne had worked fast, made sure the institutional machinery couldn't grind him down. By 6 o'clock that evening, Wright was back at his temporary post outside the main residence, when the word came through. All units, Prince William and Princess Kate arriving at Kensington Palace. ETA 2 minutes. Wright moved to a position where he could observe without interfering. Professional distance. Let the family handle their private business. The vehicle pulled up. William emerged first, moving fast. His face looked carved from stone. Kate followed, practically running toward the entrance. They went straight to Kate's private rooms, where Charlotte waited with Mrs. Chen and the royal physician. Wright couldn't hear what happened inside. Didn't need to. He could imagine Charlotte falling into her mother's arms. Kate's controlled fury giving way to tears. William demanding answers, getting them, and immediately pulling out his phone to make calls. What Wright didn't know was that in the next 72 hours, 33 staff members would be investigated. 12 would be dismissed for knowing something was wrong and saying nothing. Another 8 would be reassigned. The entire household management structure at Kensington Palace would be reorganized. And Camilla would never spend unsupervised time with any of William's children again. But that was still to come. Right now, at 6:15 on Thursday evening, the immediate crisis was contained. Charlotte was safe. Her parents were with her. The machinery of royal protection was beginning to turn. Wright's radio crackled. "Sergeant Wright, report to the south drawing room." He made his way there, unsure what to expect. Found William waiting, alone. The Prince of Wales looked 10 years older than he had that morning. Stress had carved lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. "Sergeant Wright, thank you for coming. Your Royal Highness, I understand you found my daughter." "Yes, sir. My sister tells me you broke protocol to do it, that you could have faced serious consequences." "I did what seemed necessary at the time, sir." William nodded slowly. "Charlotte told us everything, what she experienced, how you helped her, how you stayed with her until Anne arrived." He paused. "She said you told her it wasn't her fault, that she hadn't done anything wrong." "She hadn't, sir." "No, she hadn't." William's voice was tight with barely controlled emotion. "But she believed she had. That's what terrifies me. My daughter thought she deserved to be punished. Locked in darkness, denied food. She thought she'd failed somehow." Wright didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. "I need you to understand something," William continued. "What you did today, finding Charlotte, calling Anne, documenting everything, you didn't just help my daughter, you prevented something much worse. If this had continued, if Charlotte had internalized that treatment as normal, if she'd learned that love and care were conditional." He stopped, collected himself. "You saved her from more than just a locked room." "I'm glad I could help, sir." "Help?" William almost laughed. Bitter sound. "You did considerably more than help. You did what the entire household staff should have done. What I should have done. I should have seen this coming." "Sir, with respect," Camilla hid this well. Charlotte's schedule showed a quiet day at home. Nothing appeared wrong from the outside. "Except you noticed a breakfast tray, scratches on a door, details everyone else walked past." "Training, sir, and perhaps some luck." William shook his head. "Not luck. Vigilance. The kind we should all be showing." He straightened. "My wife wants to thank you personally, but she's with Charlotte right now. Won't leave her side. You understand?" "Of course, sir." "We're having Charlotte examined by a specialist tomorrow. Someone who deals with childhood trauma. We need to know if there's lasting damage, if she needs therapy, support, whatever helps her process this. Smart. Not just treating the physical symptoms, addressing the psychological impact." "In the meantime," William said, "I'm making changes, immediate changes. No one spends unsupervised time with my children unless both Catherine and I approve. Not family, not staff, not anyone. And there will be check-ins, regular conversations where the children can speak freely about anything that's bothering them." "That sounds wise, sir. It sounds like something I should have implemented years ago." William's expression hardened. But I was trying to keep the peace, trying to make a blended family work, trying to give my father's wife the benefit of the doubt. And while I was trying, my daughter suffered. The final moments of this story are unforgettable. Stay with us until the end. Now here's what happened when the truth reached the very top of the royal family. "What happens to Camilla?" Wright asked, then immediately regretted it, so not his place to ask. But William answered anyway. "My father is being informed tonight. He's in Wales. Royal engagement he couldn't cancel without causing speculation. He'll be back tomorrow morning. And then—" William's jaw tightened. "Then he and I are going to have a very difficult conversation." "I'm sorry, sir." "Don't be. This needed to happen. Should have happened sooner." William moved toward the door, stopped. "Sergeant Wright, I know you've been reassigned. I want you to know that wasn't punishment. Anne arranged it because she trusts you, because she believes you have the judgment to protect things that matter. I appreciate that, sir. And I want you to know that if you ever see something wrong again, anything that concerns the safety or well-being of anyone in this family, you have my personal authorization to act immediately. No waiting for protocol, no seeking permission. You see danger, you stop it. Clear? Crystal clear, sir?" "Good." William extended his hand. Wright shook it. Firm grip. Brief, but meaningful. Then William left to return to his family. Wright stood alone in the drawing room. 7 years of service had never prepared him for a day like this, never trained him for the moment when protocol and morality diverged completely. But his military service had. 4 years in active duty had taught him that rules existed to protect people. When rules failed that purpose, they needed to be broken. He'd made the right call. He knew that now. The next morning, Friday, Wright reported to his new assignment at the Royal Collection. Different building, different routine, different responsibilities. But before he could start, Anne found him. "Walk with me, Sergeant." They walked through the quieter corridors of St. James's Palace, away from the tourists, away from the staff. "Charles arrived an hour ago," Anne said. "He and William have been in the King's study since 7:30. I imagine it's not going well." "No, ma'am." "Charles doesn't want to believe Camilla is capable of what Charlotte described. He's suggesting misunderstanding, exaggeration, children's tendency to dramatize." Wright felt anger flare, pushed it down. "But he can't argue with the evidence," Anne continued. "The photographs, the locked door, Charlotte's physical state when you found her, the medical examination showing dehydration and signs of stress. He can't dismiss all of that. What will he do? Publicly? Nothing. The monarchy doesn't air private grievances. There will be no statements, no explanations. Camilla will develop a sudden health concern. She'll step back from public duties for a few months. Her schedule will be quietly adjusted, so she's never alone with William's children." "And privately?" Anne's expression was grim. "Privately, Charles is being forced to choose between his wife and his son's family, between protecting his marriage and protecting his grandchildren. It's not a choice he wanted to make. But it's the choice in front of him." "Exactly." Anne stopped walking, turned to face Wright. "I want you to understand something. What you did yesterday set this in motion. You forced the family to confront an ugly truth. Some people won't thank you for that. Some will resent you for making them uncomfortable." "I understand, ma'am. But you also saved Charlotte from potentially years of psychological abuse. You stopped a pattern before it could become entrenched. That matters more than anyone's comfort, including the King's." Wright nodded. "You'll hear whispers," Anne warned. "Staff saying you overreacted, that you made a situation worse than it was, that you should have handled it quietly. Ignore them. You did what needed doing." "Thank you, ma'am." "Don't thank me. Thank whatever instinct made you pay attention when everyone else was looking away." Anne started walking again. "The truth is, Sergeant, the palace has failed before. We've prioritized image over substance, tradition over safety. We've let people suffer because acknowledging their suffering would be inconvenient. She was talking about more than just Charlotte now. Wright heard it in her voice. History, patterns, previous failures. But this time, Anne continued, this time we're doing better, because one guard decided a child mattered more than protocol. Remember that when the doubt creeps in. They reached the Royal Collection offices. Anne prepared to leave. One more thing, she said. Charlotte asked about you this morning. Wanted to know if you were all right, if you'd gotten in trouble for helping her. What did you tell her? I told her you were fine, that you'd been recognized for doing the right thing, that she should never hesitate to ask for help when she needs it, because people like you exist in the world. Anne left. Wright began his new assignment. Quieter work, less dramatic, but important in its own way. Protecting history, preserving heritage. 3 days later, on Monday afternoon, Wright received a handwritten note, delivered by Palace courier. The handwriting was careful, childish, but the words were clear. Dear Sergeant Wright, thank you for finding me. Thank you for believing me. Thank you for helping me understand it wasn't my fault. Aunt Anne said you're protecting important things now. I think you were already doing that when you protected me. I won't forget what you did. Your friend Charlotte. Wright kept that note in his desk drawer. On difficult days, when the work felt tedious or meaningless, he'd take it out and read it. Reminded him why he'd chosen this profession. Why he'd taken the oath to protect and serve. Not for the ceremony, not for the prestige, not even for the royals themselves, for the people who needed protecting, especially the ones too small to protect themselves. Over the following weeks, the story became clearer. Camilla had been building resentment toward Kate for months. Small slights, perceived disrespect, the press favoring Kate over her, the public's obvious preference. She'd decided to strike at Kate through her children, assert dominance, prove she held power in the family structure. Charlotte had been convenient, available, vulnerable, and it had nearly worked if Wright hadn't noticed, if he'd walked past that breakfast tray one more time, if he'd decided protocol mattered more than instinct. Charlotte would have spent another day locked in that room, maybe longer. Camilla would have learned she could get away with it. The abuse would have escalated. But Wright had noticed. He'd acted. He'd broken the pattern before it could fully form. 2 months later, the changes Wright had helped initiate were in full effect. New protocols for child welfare, mandatory check-ins with educational psychologists, staff training on recognizing signs of emotional abuse, anonymous reporting systems for household employees who witnessed the concerning behavior. The palace had learned, slowly, reluctantly, but genuinely. Charlotte was healing, therapy was helping. She'd stopped flinching at every sound, stopped monitoring doorways constantly, stopped accepting blame for things that weren't her fault. Kate had thanked Wright personally. Brief conversation, private office, no ceremony. You gave me back my daughter, she'd said simply. I can never repay that. Wright had told her no repayment was necessary. He'd just done his job. But they both knew it was more than that. It was choosing humanity over hierarchy, compassion over career, the right thing over the easy thing. As for Camilla, she remained queen consort in title, but her influence had been permanently diminished. Staff watched her now, documented her interactions. She was never alone with any of the younger royals. Never would be again. Charles had made his choice. His grandchildren's safety over his wife's pride. It had damaged his marriage, but it had protected his family. Sometimes the right choice was also the hard choice. Wright settled into his new role at the Royal Collection, found satisfaction in the work, appreciated the quiet, the lack of drama, but he remained vigilant, still noticed small details, still trusted his instincts, still believed that protecting people meant more than following orders. One Tuesday afternoon, 6 months after finding Charlotte, Wright was conducting a routine inspection of the crown jewels display when he heard small footsteps behind him. He turned. Charlotte stood there, taller now, healthier, confident smile. "Hello, Sergeant Wright. Your Royal Highness, shouldn't you be in school?" "Half day. Mum's meeting with charities nearby. She said I could visit the collection." Charlotte moved closer to the display case, studied the crowns and sceptres behind the glass. "Do you like your new job?" she asked. "I do. It's different, but good. Aunt Anne says you're one of the best security specialists they have, that artifacts are safer because of you." Wright smiled. She's generous with her praise. Charlotte looked up at him. "I think she's right, though. You notice things other people miss. That's a gift. Sometimes it's just training." "Maybe." Charlotte turned back to the display. "I started training too. Self-defense classes. Aunt Anne arranged it. She said I should never feel helpless again." "That's good. Everyone should know how to protect themselves." "She also taught me something else. She said silence protects bad people. That's speaking up, even when it's hard. That's how you stop them." Wright heard the echo of his own actions in those words. "Your aunt is a wise woman." "She is." Charlotte smiled. "I wanted to tell you something. I'm doing better, really better. The therapy helps. Talking to my parents helps. And knowing that people like you exist, people who'll do the right thing even when it's difficult, that helps too." "I'm glad, Your Royal Highness." "Charlotte. When it's just us, you can call me Charlotte." "All right, Charlotte." She studied the crown jewels a moment longer, then without looking at him, said quietly, "Thank you for everything, for seeing me when I needed to be seen." Then she was gone. Quick footsteps fading down the corridor. Wright stood alone among the artifacts and treasures, centuries of history surrounding him. Crowns worn by kings, sceptres held by queens, objects of immense value and significance. But none of it mattered as much as one 9-year-old girl who'd needed help and received it. True duty wasn't about protecting crowns or following protocol. It was about protecting people, especially the vulnerable ones, especially when no one else was looking. That was the lesson Wright had learned, the lesson he'd carry forward. In a world of rules and regulations, of hierarchy and tradition, sometimes the most important thing was simply this: see the person in front of you, recognize their humanity, and act accordingly. Everything else was just details. If this story showed you something about courage and doing what's right, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. We share these powerful stories from inside the palace walls every single day. They're stories about real people making impossible choices, about guards who risk everything for those they've sworn to protect, about moments when character matters more than protocol. Drop a comment and tell us, would you have broken protocol to save someone in need? Have you ever had to choose between following rules and doing what's right? We read every comment and your stories matter. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, remember, true courage isn't about following orders. It's about knowing when to break them.